Hello, everyone. I'm Richard Kain from Woovit, and if you're looking for the Rated S podcast, you're in the wrong place. This is the Rated R podcast from Bamsters.
Alrighty then. Welcome back to another Bamsters podcast, episode 109. With me today, I have G-Talk.
Hey everybody, yeah, it's me, Nils Christian, but as always, you can call me G. And I guess I've been roped in because, hey, nobody else wanted to do this episode. So, yay. No, just kidding. I think we have a lot of interesting topics. But very first, a apology, because we didn't do an episode last week. And I have a theory. Now, I know what the official reason is that we never mentioned anyway, so that's why I'm doing this. But I have a theory Drax sabotaged last week's episode. Because I basically spent half of it arguing that Marvel's Avengers Infinity War movie was a waste of time. I think that hurt Drax's little feelings.
To be honest, I can't remember what we talked about last week. But if you think it's a waste of time, hey, you're welcome to your opinion. Just like everybody else. Doesn't mean it's right.
Well, as I said, I just want to see Spider-Man goes against Thanos.
You want to see a spider splat?
Spider splat, very much.
Well, alright, let's move on to the topics for this week. And I guess we'll bridge the gap with something that happened last week, but was kind of interesting, and in case anybody missed it, a game that G and Bam spent some time in. Epic has released about 12 million in Paragon assets free for game developers to use.
I threw that one into the public chat room for the Bamsters team, so yeah, we should probably have covered that earlier. It's one of the weird ones because, yeah, it's the $12 million Epic Games spent on Paragon assets. Everything they threw into that. They released it for free, but if you're going to use it, a lot of it are character models and skins and stuff that are Paragon specific. You're going to look like you're very much ripped off Paragon. So it's not that easy to use. I mean, base models and everything that's in there can be used. All the foliage, all the scenery, a lot of the scenery material can be reused, but there's some of it that cannot.
Well, yes and no. I mean, if you're using them as placeholders until you're able to afford or build your own, or even if you're just using them as a base model and then maybe heavily modifying them and changing the look and feel of those characters, they could still be useful and maybe save you some development time.
Nah, particularly the characters are too distinct. I don't think any of them would really work. They probably make excellent for things like learning how they're made, taking them apart. I can see value in it. As you said, placeholders. If you can just say, okay, I'm going to use steel and steel model and everything that's with it until I get something better, yes.
When I wonder if some of these models might be useful for, folks who do things like making online videos, particularly using CGI characters.
Machinima, yeah. There could probably be some. I would say there's a lot of games that could benefit from releasing this stuff in general, particularly character models. Allowing people to just go berserk always results in interesting stuff, even if there is that infamous rule. I can't English today, sorry. Rule 34.
That's okay. We all have trouble Englishing from time to time.
At least you have an excuse. You're American.
Ooh. Yeah. Kind of hard to argue that one when you see some of the news footage of people around the country. Man.
Anybody who played Paragon and looking for a game to move on to, Switchblade. I've been in the beta. This might have been a bit closed. We might even have a key for it somewhere. Anyway, I've been playing that. That's actually fun, and it's still a MOBA even if it doesn't look or feel like one. There's a lot of people who move from Paragon over there. It's a lot faster than Paragon, but it's entertaining.
Well, alright, I guess we'll hit up the next topic, and I didn't want to jump too in-depth into this because I know it's very heavily politically charged right now, and for folks who listen frequently know that I kind of avoid most political things as much as possible. But this one also falls within our realm because of, the videos that we post on YouTube. And this past week, I've been seeing several different news articles that YouTube is now shutting down and banning sites that basically that showcase any kind of videos of guns or gun-related material. So if you have folks that are in the business of selling firearms and they put up videos showing, either how to put the firearm together or how it works or a review video of it, these kinds of things are being taken down now. YouTube is its own company. It's a service that has the right to set their own terms and conditions. But the thing about this that concerns me is the censorship over something that is not illegal. Because, I mean, look, if they're putting up stuff about how to illegally modify firearms, then yes, get rid of that nonsense because it doesn't need to be there. And it's illegal, and I get that. But when you're just putting up, say, a review or showcasing something new, a new product that's come out, and they're doing this specifically on firearms, but here's where this really concerns me, and you'll have to bear with me because this is where, as Bam would say, I'm putting on my tinfoil hat. But is this the beginning of the road that could lead to things like banning of video game footage that's considered to be too violent? So now, folks playing things like, PUBG or any kind of realistic looking first or third person shooter, or any other type of game that maybe has something that they consider to be a little too high of content on gore content, are these things going to soon become targets as well?
Well, I think that it's a valid question to ask. And right now, one of the things that are happening in parallel is Reddit and Craigslist and basically a lot of forums online are taking down everything related to, well, classifieds. Anything that might be even remotely related to sex work because of the FOSTA rules that just got voted in the US. So things can escalate and things are moving on to anything we don't like or getting removed. Even things that are legal in this case with the firearms, but also just politicians making things illegal because they don't like them. Note, I'm severely against the rules that you introduced via FOSTA. But YouTube is not the only outlet for this stuff. If you still need to put up videos about guns, there's a lot of services that will host videos. Use one of those. I understand people will be reluctant because YouTube is the big one. It has the brand recognition. But use those instead. YouTube has every right to do it. And your own notes that I'm looking at right now says also, well, this might be driven by services that want to have advertisement there. Because companies don't want necessarily to put their ads next to firearm videos.
Yeah, and that's a theory that I put on there, which there's a really good chance that theory is, is real, that it could be that the ad companies are driving this. Because I haven't seen anything in the couple articles I've read thus far, I haven't seen anything that specifically states their exact reasoning for doing it. So I don't know if they're doing it because they feel like this is the right thing to do, based on, the mass shootings and things that have been happening in the US, or if they're doing it because ad companies have come to them and said, look, we're not going to pay to put ads on your platform if our ads are going to run over this content as well. And it could be, it could be a little bit of both. But it's just the thing that is troubling the most to me about it is that content that's being taken down and banned are things that are not illegal. But like you said, YouTube is a service that has the right to set their own terms and conditions. There are other platforms. In fact, it's kind of funny because one of the things I saw was that Pornhub is a consideration for some of these gun manufacturers and resellers that are looking to put videos up.
Oh yeah, every so often I've gotten links to Pornhub for things that are definitely not porn. I've seen feature-length movies be up there for a short moment. I've seen cartoons. People link me a cartoon via Pornhub. There's a TV show, Belgian one. I live in Belgium. There's one that goes up there as well for some reason. People upload multiple episodes of it to Pornhub. Really weird.
So I'm going to shift it then. And, with things that having multiple causes that led up to a catastrophic end, a store that's been around, since before I was a kid, at least as far as I can remember being a kid, Toys R Us has been around. But they are closing down, selling off all their merchandise, filing for bankruptcy. And there's been a couple of rumors as to whether or not another company might come in and buy them out. I think I saw something with, not necessarily that KB Toys would try to buy them out, but that they might try to fill that void left by Toys R Us. And I don't know, it's kind of a sad thing. I at least for me, the Toys R Us stores here where I live in Southern California, I think one of the biggest problems that they probably had is their location, because almost every single Toys R Us store that I've seen in the areas that I live it's out of the way. It's not near anything else. It might be in like a little strip mall or something, but it's not near anything that people would go to on a regular basis.
So I've never been to a Toys R Us at all. I don't think there's any back home. I remember having seen one somewhere, but I can't remember which country. So it's one of those, okay, Toys R Us. company that I don't care about closing off? I know Babies R Us I've been to, but not Toys R Us.
That's closing down as well. It's the same company, and they're shutting down their Babies R Us stores as well. However, there is maybe a little bit of a quote-unquote light at the end of the tunnel. There's a GoFundMe campaign has been started to try and I don't know if I want to say prevent or reverse this action. And they've already put together, some large donors have already put together quite a bit of money on this.
So I don't understand, because I was reading about why. People giving their opinion on why was interesting. Almost all of it was that the toys weren't good, and the stuff they sold, a lot of it wasn't even toys, and it was just garbage, and it was overpriced. And the stores were ugly and unkept, they weren't clean, and there were no presentation. Like, if I go to one of the high-end bookstores, there will be staff on hand to, engage with and talk about books, and you can find places that will entertain your kids, etc. Not even in these places, in a toy store where there's nobody to even engage the kids. No, that's just not gonna work, particularly not this time of, the internet, where can you go to a store and look at a piece but not engage with anything, or can you go online, look at a piece and not engage with anything? Might as well go online.
Well, and I think that's, some of these other stores and online presences have really what's led to this, because you've got Amazon and you can buy a lot of the same stuff, if not all the same stuff you can buy, with Toys R Us, you can buy at Amazon. And a lot of people with Prime memberships are getting that free 2-day shipping. You've got Walmart and Target selling, again, a lot of the same toys. And then the other thing, too, is what I find a little frustrating with some of the stuff that I look for and try to collect is that these toy manufacturers are doing exclusive deals with certain outlets, especially for a toy company or I should say a company that sells toys. That can be kind of catastrophic if all these different exclusive things are going to other stores and not yours, because it's driving people to go and buy toys in other stores.
They actually started out making furniture. Like, the guy who made the company, again, I was just reading up on this earlier. Kind of funny we're taking it up here. He came home from a war, 57-ish, so I'm not sure which one that would be. And everybody were talking about going home to the wife and kids. And kind of like, wait, kids. Decided to make furniture for kids. And eventually branched into toys. Now, the slightly, sad but interesting timing is that guy, Charles Lazarus. He passed away just now. He got to just barely see the company he founded go away.
Yeah, I think he was, what was it, 94?
Something like that, mid-90s.
Yeah, and I did see somewhere where some folks were theorizing that some of the deals, because of course, since the stores are closing, they've put everything on clearance this week, and I saw some stuff theorizing that they had held off on doing some of the major deals because of that. I don't know how much truth there might be to that. One of the other things I'd heard when I talked to some of the Toys R Us employees is they didn't think that the discounts were going to go any lower, so it wasn't like it was being put off. In fact, I even saw something somewhere that an employee had said that some of the toy companies themselves that produce the toys are actually asking to get their toys back rather than have them sold off at a clearance price.
I could imagine that there's a lot of companies that will actually do that or buy back stock just to avoid it being sold off too cheap.
Yeah, and as much as I'm kind of disheartened to see Toys R Us go away, I'm disappointed I couldn't take advantage of that, get some larger discounts. I did go check, and, things like Legos were only 5% off. That doesn't even cover the taxes that you pay on that stuff, so it almost kind of didn't even feel worth it really to pick too much up. Yeah, I expect a lot of the folks that bought stuff. I'm sure there are people that bought stuff for their kids or were buying stuff, early Christmas presents and whatnot, but I kind of expect that the cynic in me is like most of the people who went in there and bought stuff are probably people who are going to be selling it on, Amazon or eBay.
Probably. Key. Should we move on?
Yeah.
Well, talking about things that are closing down, here's something that could have closed down somebody's PlayStation account. Sorry. This one is a little bit not safe for work, at least if we included pictures.
Let's not.
Over on Reddit, a user asked how to delete a photo from his PS4's Playroom game, because he'd taken a photo in Playroom while he wasn't completely clothed, like his bits were out. And here's where it gets bad. This was noticed when he was showing off his PSVR to one of his friends. So his friend has a virtual reality headset on, and here's a picture of your friend's junk.
Because that's just what you want to see when you go over to your buddy's house and you throw a VR headset on.
Yeah, having your, yes, I don't. Of course, Reddit was full of suggestions and comments like, somebody suggested go to Staples and print out 50 pictures of different guys' private bits, and then take photos of those. And that way nobody can tell which ones is yours.
Why?
Well, I said the guy didn't know how to get rid of it, get it deleted. There was concerns that it could end up with a ban if Sony somehow sees it. Or if it ends up on a Sony server and somebody looks through pictures, that the user could have gotten banned, but as somebody said, if it was flaccid, you must pass it.
Oh, jeez.
And of course, the evergreen, the delete button in the Playroom is a blue thumbs up which reads share to Facebook.
Wait, what? Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
For some reason, that one went a little over my head and then came back and smacked me in the back of the head like a boomerang.
Or one person reflected back on getting an angry email from Sony once for singing Billy Joel's Just the Way You Are in SingStar wearing nothing but black underwear and then uploading it. And that person then went on to point out he or she did not remember doing it, and apparently Sony doesn't have a sense of humor.
Sony not having a sense of humor does not surprise me.
But yeah, I can confirm you can find weird SingStar movies up on the interwebs.
So, was there ever any actual useful, helpful information on how to get rid of it?
So that's where it gets a little bit concerning. This is not the first time it's happened. People commenting on having done that with the PS Vita and the little camera there, and yeah. You can apparently go in and delete your save game from Playroom, because it's only stored in that. It doesn't get cloud stored. Unless, of course, you have PlayStation Plus and the cloud save thingy. Then you also need to delete the save game from the cloud. But that's the solution to it. So if you take pictures in Playroom that you should not have taken, then yeah, go in and delete your whole save game.
I guess this is just one of those things that I'm too old to understand. I don't get the dick pic thing. I've never understood it. So...
Well, my understanding is that the person just accidentally took a picture or without thinking took a picture while having bits out, while not wearing underwear. As in, it didn't sound from what I could read like an intentional dick pic. Like, it was just, I wasn't wearing any clothes that day while playing with my PlayStation.
I don't know. I mean, look, you're in your house, you want to run around naked? Dude, go ahead. Let it all hang out. Nobody cares. But
if you did do that first time you bought a house, run around naked, something's wrong with you.
Hey, folks, couples even have naked days. All that stuff, it's all good. But if you're going to be sitting in front of a camera that could put pictures or videos online, make sure the camera's off, cover it up, turn it away. I mean, come on, seriously. It's not that difficult.
Nope. I'm paranoid. I keep a piece of tape over one of my cameras, one on my laptop. Just don't want it to ever record anything. And it's not even because I'm naked all the time. It's weird, isn't it? Oversharing. But it's one of those things. Throw a doily or something over the camera. Throw something over cameras if you just have them standing around. Just play safe.
Oh, wow. I was talking about being old. You just said doily. Man, you're showing your age. Do they even make those anymore?
I live in Belgium. This is a thing here.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think I'd heard of doily since, I was a kid, and that was a while ago.
Well, you said you were old, so I figured something old that you might have lying around and you could throw over your camera.
Well, should we move from something old to something new?
Well, the next topic is old as well. But sure. EA, Electronic Arts, they tried to teach a so-called AI to play Battlefield 1, i.e. they took a neural network, self-learning neural network, showed it a 30-minute gameplay footage to seed it, and then had the AI learn to play over a simulated week or 300 hours of gaming, playing against itself, playing against other AIs, and eventually against a few people. And it's interesting. There's a little video they put up by the team called Search for Extraordinary Experiences Division. Seems like they got inspired by SETI. Where they basically talk about what they did and how they did it. And you see these little bots running around, sort of intelligently, but not really on a map, and fighting, shooting. And for people who don't know, normally AIs in a lot of first-person shooters, though, NPCs, what do we call them these days? Characters, computer-controlled characters in first-person, third-person shooters as well, in pretty much every game where you have a character run around. They follow certain patterns. They have like nodes that they can run to, or paths they can run along. Usually with some fuzzing, they don't have to run from A to B to C to D. They can, make curves, etc. And it will be pre-programmed where to hide, where to crouch, where to move around corners in specific ways. All of this is hand-built into maps, and then with a bit of if-then statements, handling all the shooting and picking up ammo, etc. But here's an AI where they don't teach it the map besides just letting it play, and it figures out things itself. It's supposedly going to make things easier, but there's a clip in this video. We'll see if we can link the video in there, where you just see two AIs run around in a circle looking for each other. Because they don't know what to do, they can't just go into default, look for the next objective that I have to do, look for the next person, or if I need health, look for health. And these are just running around, so it's two players from opposite sides running around in a circle next to each other. Yeah, let's just say it's not quite there yet. There's some ways to go.
Why does this sound like something out of a Roadrunner cartoon?
There are a couple of clips in that video that are very Roadrunner-ish, but there's also some where you just see, they move really well. And the moment somebody comes around a corner, they just shoot them. That's a headache with it being computers. They have near enough zero latency. They can shoot immediately. They can react or act immediately. And this is machine reaction time versus human reaction time is a problem if they move down this path. But they talked about they could add in like artificial delays in shooting, so it seems more human. I think that's a good idea. And ultimately being able to load in AIs into a game, one, helps when you have low player count. All games have that at times. But it's also interesting that you can do this for single-player games. You could have hopefully more intelligent players. And you could do it if you really want like 1,000-player matches, 1,000-character matches to simulate proper, huge combat scenarios. If you can't find 1,000 people, load AIs in there.
Well, there's definitely a lot of good things that could come from this, but yeah, I think that they probably would have to have certain, I guess maybe call it handbrakes on there for dumbing it down a little bit for your average player, just because the fact that, like, I've played some games where the AI will shoot me from, several hundred yards off. They're not even using a sniper rifle. I'm hidden behind the bushes. Realistically, they'd never be able to see me. And some of these Tom Clancy games, man, it's like one shot and you're done. And you're crawling behind a bush and some AI happens to walk by a window and gets alerted and tags you. It's like, you gotta be kidding me. So, yeah, I can see where they'd have to put certain handbrakes on there because, the AI would never even have to take the time to aim. It could probably just hip fire and still be accurate.
And that's part of it as well. Everything is much easier for the computer than it is for human. Well, with one exception, actually. We can look at the games, and they might look ugly in some cases, might be difficult to see or read, but it looks familiar for humans, right? Vision is one of the things, even humans have pretty poor vision. Vision is one of the things we're good at because of how our brain works, pattern recognitions, etc. This is a nightmare for computers, so they actually have to simplify vision. So it's much more simple than what they show to humans. It's difficult to explain. So they'll give the computer something similar to what we're seeing, but really reduced, really simplified, and easier for it to process. And they have to do this because machine vision, full machine vision, would be near enough impossible at this point.
Well, and just for fun, I'll throw the tinfoil hat back on again. Do we really want to be teaching computers warfare?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, but remember, we talk about it as if it's AI. It's not. It's a neural network it is self-learning, but it's given objectives. Don't die, don't get shot, don't take damage. keep your health up by picking up health, keep your ammo up by picking up ammo crates, and shoot the other people, and you can even teach them to take the objective. But we're not teaching them to run around killing everybody, except shoot everything that isn't on your team. We're not teaching them anything about innovating. That's the weird part. It's not AI, because an intelligence can innovate. Intelligence can think of things. These can't. They try random things, and if it matches the objective, they are rewarded. So there's a reward mechanism in these. They're shown this is good, this is bad. And then this random behavior is what eventually generates new behavior, new pathways in the neural network. So when we're not teaching something that can figure out breaking out onto the internet and taking control of a killer robot, and then go, oh yeah, I have to kill all the humans. It doesn't have any of that understanding. It only has, I'm getting this input. How do I achieve the reward status? So we're so far away from anything AI that it doesn't make sense really to talk about, oh my God, we're teaching computers to kill humans. We're not. We're teaching them to process a given input in given manners, or for given rewards, and fuzzying how to get to it.
Well, folks, and now that G has sucked all the fun air out of the tinfoil part of the topic. What do you say we move on to the Harry Potter game that's coming out?
Oh yeah, you were into that Pokemon Go thing, and you're probably one of those potheads.
Potter heads. There's a big difference between a pothead and a Potter head.
If you say so. They both seem to mumble a lot and say things that don't make sense.
Yeah, no, I saw an article about this within the last week. It's saying that you could pre-register for the game already. And I don't know, you mentioned Pokemon Go, and it's funny because I know I talked a little bit about thinking that with the following that all the Harry Potter fans that are still out there, I expect this game will probably do well on launch. Hopefully it doesn't run into the same kind of congestion issues that Pokemon Go did. But I don't know, it looks kind of cool. I've only seen a couple of quick little clips as to some of the things that you'll be able to do with the game. But so far it looks like it ought to be interesting at least to check out.
So is this made by the same company? Because the Harry Potter franchise belongs to Warner Brothers. But it was Niantic who made Pokemon Go. Wow, I can already forget that name.
No, it's not. At least as far as I know, Niantic isn't involved in all of it. From what I saw, Warner Brothers partnered with or was working with another company called Jam City, and they've created a game studio that they're calling Portkey Games, which is the studio that'll be releasing the Harry Potter mobile game.
I might know somebody there. Remind me one of these days to go and poke somebody.
Yes, please do. It would be cool if we could get an interview on this. So the registry, at least from what I've seen, I think is for Google Play. I don't know if you can register on iOS yet, but I did see that it's also going to be available on iOS at some point. I don't know if that's right out the gate or shortly thereafter.
Well, I can think of one person who will be happy about that. Are you going to get it? Are you going to play it? Are you going to run around and go Leviosa something, Diagon Alley? Are you going to take your Android phone and run into walls?
Well, I didn't run into walls when I played Pokemon Go, so I don't see why I would with this one either. And I think Pokemon Go had more running around and looking at the screen than I expect this one will.
Well, I was more thinking, isn't that what they do? Run into a wall to get to a train station.
Oh, yeah, no, thanks. As much as it would be cool if that actually worked, I don't expect it to actually work, and, I want to keep all my face parts where they are.
No comment. But yes, Harry Potter games for mobile. It'll probably be a big success.
Well, on that note, we've been talking quite a bit. I think we probably should wrap this up.
Okay, everybody, well, apparently that was all the newsy bits we had, and wow, did we just run on a lot and say things that really bored everybody. Apologies. Coming up next, we have a small interview with a company called Woovit. I'm sorry, Woovit. Yeah, Woovit. They help people like us and streamers and press figuring out what games to look at by providing a link between game development companies, PR companies, and us in terms of things like game review keys. Now, this is one of those areas that have been up in the newsy bits in the past, like what happens to those review keys. Some got sold off, some got used and abused. Well, we have one of them coming on to talk about, amongst other things, that and just what is it, what are these review keys, and what's the whole business about.
So stick around after the break for our interview with those folks. And in the meantime, if you're interested in checking us out online, you can find us at 𝙆𝙬𝙬𝙀𝙗𝑠.com. You can subscribe to this podcast either through Google Play, Apple, iTunes. Sorry, I don't use Apple very much. And you can also find us on YouTube as well. Just search 𝙆𝙬𝙬𝙀𝙗𝑠. For myself, 𝙁𝙁𝙗𝑠, I'm out for the moment, but stick around till after the break.
Be right back.
Hello, everyone. Are you over 18 years old or can keep a secret from your parents? Then you are listening to the Rated R podcast from 𝙆𝙬𝙬𝙀𝙗𝑠, and I am Richard Kain from Woovit.
And we're back, everybody. Yes, it's that part of the episode where we have some interviews. And normally we have people on, game developers, community people, PR people, what have you. Anybody who's on to talk about the games that they're making. But at the other end of all these things, there's usually the question, how do you market games? And you might have noticed a lot of Twitch streamers, YouTube streamers, content creators talking about getting review keys so they can show us all these games. Well, the question is, how do you get a review key? And for that part, we've actually invited somebody on who deals with that via a little website called Woovit. But first off, I think he's still somewhere around here. Drac?
What? Wait, huh? Did I hear is it time already?
Yes, do you want to introduce a little bit, tell us who Kain is?
Yes, so today with us we have Richard Kain from Woovit, site, as G mentioned, there you can sign up for an account if you like to stream games or review games. And basically, before I talk too much about it, I'd like to introduce Richard and have him come on and say something about it.
Thank you for having me on, guys. Woovit is a platform that enables publishers to properly connect with creators to get them game keys. Right now, it's a very difficult manual process. It's very easy for very top-end streamers and YouTubers to get keys. It's very difficult for people, under about 1 million subscribers to get these keys, and we're hoping to make that much more efficient and transparent and easy for all involved so that more people can get keys, more publishers will get more videos.
And I think you touched on one of the headaches with this. As you say, if you're Felix Kjellberg, let's not say his real name or his online handle. If you're these people, the ones who have millions or even in some cases just hundreds of thousands of followers, there's a good chance that developers and marketing PR people would reach out and say, could you cover our game? But for anybody who wants to get into this, who wants to stream games, who might have been streaming their own library but are looking for something new, sites like yours is really where you kind of have to go to and say, I do this, here's my followers, here's my content, here's what I've been doing. Can you help me out?
That's exactly right. So it's a discovery process on both sides. Let's say you're a creator that has 25,000 followers on YouTube. You've mostly done city sim games. In the end, it'd be pretty easy for you to get a code for surviving Mars from Paradox in time. But what happens right now is it's very difficult for Paradox to find you and for you to find Paradox. And it's been a process that's historically been mediated by a full-time staff member that looks at the incoming emails or tries to hunt down some new creator, which is our favored parlance, to make a video. And that just means a lot of balls get dropped on both sides. By identifying, here are keys that are available, here's what we require of them, it should be much easier for that creator to get a key. In the end, publishers want videos to get made, but they also just don't want to be scammed. And right now the email incoming traffic is very high on the scam side, which then makes them retreat into, well, I'm just going to work with the 40 top people I've worked with before. I've got people on staff to do that, and that just makes the whole process very illiquid and limited. And I think with a more automated approach, where you immediately know exactly everything about the channel, it's been authenticated because you've authorized the data to be given to us from YouTube, from Twitch, from Twitter, Mixer, Steam. It doesn't require a human anymore. And one person at a publisher can handle hundreds of relationships instead of 10 to 20, which should lower the requirements necessary to give the code in the first place.
And I would also hope, if this can help reduce the amount of scams that are successful, then that means there are more keys available for the honest ones. Even the smallest of streamers get a chance to get a key and go out there and show the world what they can do, and show the publishers what they can do.
That's right. And, in the end, there's nothing more than the publishers want that to happen. And some companies, such as Paradox, have very systemically over the years been very assiduous about cultivating small new creators, and it's worked to much mutual benefit, but it's still been a very heavy, time-intensive process that should be opened up to everyone. The keys themselves, there's usually no marginal cost to get a new key issued off of Steam. But again, the publishers don't want to get scammed, and they don't want to have the cost of a in-house marketing person have to review everything and manage, and did the video show up? Should I keep working with these guys? And Woovit's objective is to solve all of those sort of pieces of the business to make it much easier to get the codes into the hands of creators.
Well, you mentioned the creators themselves supplying you with some data from different streaming sites, but what kinds of, for the folks out there who haven't seen or heard of the site before, what kinds of things do you guys put in place, check boxes or gates or whatnot for folks that they need to get through in order to start accessing these keys?
Creators sign up to Woovit through one of 4 authenticated services. One is YouTube, one is Twitter, one is Twitch, one's Mixer. They can also connect their Steam account, which is often a requirement for campaigns, to make sure that you don't already have the game or other data about how serious you are to play within a given genre. We don't access these actual keys. All these services get authenticated just through the normal OAuth sign-in process that each of these services have. You can sign up with one, you log in through it, and attach the other services as well, so a publisher gets a comprehensive view of the channel that they are working with. Did that answer the question?
Yes, but I'm also curious, do you differentiate between someone who is basically maybe just signed up today and someone who's been making videos for the last couple months or years?
The publishers ultimately are the ones that make those distinctions. When they sign up and create a campaign offer, they can look and say what types of channels, channel size, soon it'll be also frequency of videos, average number of views, and that sort of thing. So that's really ultimately up to the publisher. We do have controls that if we see someone has signed up and hasn't made a video in 6 months to a year, we will possibly flag those sites. We also have some algorithmic checks to make sure the sites are not fraudulent. One flag is if they have way more followers than they have views. That's an indication they may have paid for followers. So we also do a little bit of checking to make sure that the sites are legit and that they're not, using someone's IP and put up a clip of Star Wars 3 years ago to get, 1 million views. So there's a little bit of a manual review process that occurs after someone has signed up.
That actually brings me into a question that I've been pondering, because it's no secret, the podcast here is our main content. The reviews, the live streams are secondary at this point for us, and we have a Woovit account. We actually do. It's not doing anything because that's not where we usually get our keys from. We have some contact with PR people that hand them to us, but we're also moving into Woovit and are looking to use it, hence why this came up. But to what extent can you even differentiate between people who live stream versus people who create content offline and then upload versus, for example, like us, where it's editorial content?
We'd like to do more with editorial content and enable that part of the process of key distribution, because, of course, sometimes it does go to people that have podcasts or write for IGN. They don't necessarily have a vibrant Twitch or YouTube stream. And there are 2 things that we have done or are doing shortly. One is by enabling Twitter as a means of authenticating someone. Most journalists of a certain size will get validated by Twitter. So you can just choose that as a setting to qualify for a campaign. But the second thing, and this is more relevant to you guys and hopefully will soon be very widespread throughout Woovit, is a whitelist. So a publisher can put any ID on their whitelist and say, these people should get a key no matter what. I don't care about the rest of the qualifications of their channel. These people are these are journalists, they're partners, they're employees. And so that'll be a way to handle it. Finally, and this is not on our short-term roadmap, but anything from an RSS feed or data about how successful podcasts are could be another indication of data. And our system is open enough that we could be able to ingest that to say, give a key to anybody whose podcast has over X number of downloads. We don't have that right now, and that might be a while in coming, but we would like to expand to more editorial, optimized options for key giveaways.
Oh, I can tell you on podcasts, figuring out how many downloads is actually an art.
It's very hard. We briefly looked at it, and it's just it's difficult. It's very easy to game. And frankly, when we get more demand from the publishers to do that, we'll look at that problem more seriously. But very aware of how hard that is.
Yeah, it's been fun when we've been doing this, and people go, "Oh, you get 3 views on an episode, and another one gets 200, another one gets 1,000." But that's on YouTube. And people going, "Why it's so unstable?" Well, because podcasts just there isn't a single outlet besides iTunes where you can find these things. So it's a lot of small podcast services, and it's Google Android Play, I think it's called, Google Play, iTunes, and 3 or 4 other big ones.
Yeah, I mean, SoundCloud has their own data, Stitcher. I mean, that becomes very hard to get an accurate reading. I think we will be better able to solve this problem and increase distribution to editorial outlets through the use of whitelists that will come pre-created by Woovit, and a publisher would be able to opt in and say, yes, I would like to give any code, a code to any member of the hardcore gaming podcast list. Again, we don't have this, ready to load up tomorrow, but we could have it within a month. So stay tuned for that. We have not optimized for this use case, but it's definitely on our mind.
But wouldn't you also then, I could imagine, I'm purely spitballing or brain farting at this point, a whitelist for people who are into 4X games or third-person shooters or first-person shooters or RPGs, anime-based RPGs or Western ones, etc. So you'd end up with quite a few lists, and developers can say, oh, my game fits this, just give it to anybody on that list.
That is completely the plan. Whitelist will be shipping this week, and but then you need to create the whitelists, of course, and we have to make them available from a centralized service because every publisher that gets on the system isn't going to recreate the 4X list. So we'll have some work to do, but that is very much on the short-term roadmap to help facilitate this. What publishers ultimately care about is going to be quality. They want good videos to be made that help them understand what's appealing about their game, and of course, ultimately drive sales because it increases community interest. So, a small site of 7,000 followers, let's say, that does 4X games really well, you know what? Paradox and Stardock and Take-Two, they all want to reach that person. It's just very inefficient to do that in a manual, human way. And everything on our product roadmap is trying to help facilitate that.
Well, now, I've heard you say we and our, and so one of my curiosities is how many people make up the team that have been working on putting the site together?
I've run a video game PR company called Triple Point PR, and we've represented everybody from very small indies up to Paradox, as mentioned, Pokemon, and lots of other AAA titles. So this is a side project of Triple Points, and so the whole team is trying to use our experience of getting out codes to build this process. We've got what is in industry parlance 2.5 engineers working on it to actually build the code base, and one full-time now support staff person, Chris Carley, aka Tons of Fun, who is a streamer himself, to help facilitate any questions either creators or publishers have.
Well, that sounds like quite the team, and that kind of almost answers a little bit what my next follow-up question was going to be is what was the inspiration, or how did you guys get into making a site like this?
Yeah, I'll take a step back, and I wish I had a particular example of just the laughably fraudulent emails that, both Triple Point would receive and, that we know from other people in the industry about trying to get these requests, but On the other hand, we've seen the growth that's been really great for clients and great for the creators themselves of people that were 4X, very, very small sites with, 50 followers that have subsequently grown up to have 50,000 followers. And it's a wonderfully mutually beneficial relationship, but it was very time intense. And so it was very hard to scale when something is so time intense. And that's been the inspiration. Clients want codes to get to the hands of people that want to do good videos. We've just had to algorithmically solve this problem, and I hope Woovit's done that.
Well, I think one of the things I saw on the site that I think kind of helps with that a little bit is the limitation of just how many keys you can request before you have to produce content and request new keys.
Yeah, we've been experimenting with that. We started out at 5 when the service launched, really in February of last year. And we didn't have as many controls as we do now on fraud. And we've gotten more options available to publishers. So some people came in, took a few too many keys. We're back down to 3. But with the shipping of whitelists, which will not count against your creator quota, I think we will have solved that problem, knock wood, pretty completely. To give an example of how this works now, when you've got a platform that is matching publisher interest versus creator interest, I'm ashamed to say I can't remember the specific game, but it was a port of an old Xbox skateboarding game. And they came in and they basically said, we want people that have, I think it was, 10,000 followers on Twitch. And if they had done that in the past, if they had gone to TriplePoint or any number of other PR firms or tried to do it themselves and search for people, it probably just wouldn't have happened. But within 4 hours, the offer being posted, a Twitch channel with 20,000 followers had not only taken a key, but done a video. They love skateboarding games, and that skateboarding game in particular, now that it was ported to Steam, they were ready to play, did a nice couple-hour video. I think that helped really move the needle. That's the type of thing that you just can't imagine in advance being able to be done through a discovery process where developer of a skateboarding game port looks for creators are looking for skateboarding ported games. So that was one of the things that really amped us up. That happened late last summer and really just gave us the fuel to say, all right, we're on to something. This can be really efficient. This will work, long term.
If I may, you kind of bring up this whole the speed at which things can happen now that you've automated it, and it made me think a bit. GDC has just passed, and one of the presentations that were done there was about how much lead time to include when handing out review keys. I think a bunch of companies, PR companies, developers, etc., answered a questionnaire on this topic, and it was one of the topics that was presented at GDC. And it came down to about 3 weeks before drop dates, before embargo dates. That's the amount of time. Is that something that you try to kind of remind people when they come to you and say, we'd like to have our keys, like to use your services on Woovit, that, make sure to do it early enough, make sure to be out ahead of the curve, so to speak, so you don't end up handing out keys. I think we've had some that came out on release dates. You're not going to get much out of the videos we make 2 or 3 days after release date compared to if you'd given out the keys early.
You're totally right on this, and of course Woovit itself doesn't give too much advice about exactly sort of a go-to-market strategy overall and timing. But the easy rule of thumb is the earlier the better. Why do people not definitively do that? They're worried about embargo break-in, and that's a reasonable concern to have. We have a special, embargo setting if you're creating an offer on Woovit. But in general, the longer lead time you have, the better. I'd say another thing, which probably, of course, was covered, the notion of a launch date has become much more blended with more and more games going early access. So, for example, on Woovit, Deep Rock Galactic was giving out keys for quite a while as an early access game, and then subsequently upon launch. Subnautica, of course, really just showed the industry, I think, a lot of the way of how to do this by encouraging streams very early on in the development to help build a community. So earlier the better, no question about it. A lot of publishers, unfortunately, they will have a give and go to market strategy that is often, unfortunately, underfinanced for the reality of what their expectations are. And then even a week after launch, oh wait, hey, I need to get keys out. And that's not just applying to Woovit. And then unfortunately that can be really, really too late, especially on things like mobile. If you've not queued up a bunch of videos to hopefully hit on release, if you have an official release date, it can be very hard to build traction.
Well, now you mentioned an embargo setting. How exactly does that work, and then how do you then enforce that or penalize creators who break that embargo date?
Fortunately, when it comes to the penalty, I'll jump ahead to the raw meat of this. We've only had one guy break an embargo, and by that it was actually, I think, just a 4-hour time difference, and that's really on Woovit. We could have done better in terms of what the time zone settings were. Someone that breaks an embargo would get at least a 90-day penalty from taking any other keys on Woovit, if not an outright ban, if it was obviously deliberate and trying to jump the aisle. We've not actually, fortunately, come across this problem very much. In terms of how to set it, it's just an embargo setting that says only release the videos after a given date and time. The creator acknowledges receipt of that request and agrees to it in a checkbox. It's a pop-up, in addition to the normal receipt cycle within Woovit.
It's probably better than what we do. If any of our guys come even close to breaking an embargo date, I will personally slap them over the neck.
Yeah, they have to understand. I mean, it is a community participation is very important. People that break embargoes are toxic for the rest of the community, and knock wood, we just haven't seen much of that happen yet. Of course, maybe with if Grand Theft Auto 6 comes on Woovit one day, we'd have to have a plan that is more rigorous to enforce that. But I think we can cross that bridge when we come to it. And again, the nice thing is we've actually seen really pretty good use, and with the exception of Woovit occasionally popping up on a free games website somewhere, the vast majority of people that sign up for Woovit are very serious content creators that want to do right by themselves, their channel, and the publishers.
Well, a system like yours seems like it would really help protect against, key resellers, something that's just been toxic to the environment.
Yeah, you could definitely, one could take their channel, and let's say it has, 15,000 subscribers on YouTube. And you get 3 keys, and there are 3, you're qualifying for a good bunch of indie games at that point. You could take each of those 3 keys and go sell it on G2A, and, that's the end of the story. The thing is, you wouldn't be able to get anything more from Woovit, and your channel has been marked as such, especially if we were to find out that someone has sold a key, which we found in one case. It was a $7 key, but nevertheless, and of course we then banned the channel. Right now, it's pretty easy to, without any type of tracking of channels and behavior like this, for people to go from publisher to publisher, get a key, and sell it. And that makes, I think, especially the indies very nervous. They've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into their game, and every $8 sale actually really means something to them. So they're especially sensitive to that, and we're trying to find additional ways to track against that. But I think right now has not been a big problem. You'd have to recreate another channel of the same size to be able to get the same level of key. And so the math doesn't work out in terms of being a fraudulent creator that just wants to say buy followers. And again, we have checks against fraudulent channels themselves. So I think the math turns against the fraudulent reseller when you have an automated system like Woovit tracking, your overall record.
I'm sorry, my brain is going with all the things that we've seen in the last couple of years that we've done this. For example, we've had cases where developers said, here's a key, by the way, just contact us if you want more. That's a big red flag because that just encourages key reselling. Do you then have systems in place that if a developer wants to hand more keys, for example, in our case where we're not a person, we're a group, where they want to say, oh, here's a multiplayer game, here's 4 keys. Do you have systems to handle that?
Yeah, it's a good question, and we don't have a full answer to that, but I'll give you a partial answer. For multiplayer keys, such as the earlier mentioned 𝙎𝙤𝙬𝙬𝙀, a publisher can set that any key acceptance is actually X number of keys. In 𝙎𝙬𝙬𝙬's case, 4 keys at once, because the game, of course, plays much better as a multiplayer distribution. We don't have a good way of doing a supplemental keys to a given site yet, but we are going to develop ways where you can expressly enable giveaways to the channel, which has some, very granular constraints, again, worrying about fraud. Usually when a publisher is going to do a big giveaway and willing to have giveaways to a channel, they're less concerned about losing a code or two in the process. But we'd still like to keep that boat very tight.
Well, just to clarify, so when you're requesting the key as a content creator, is there an option that shows to request multiple keys, and if so, up to how many, or is that just by default? How does that work?
Yeah, sorry if I was unclear on that. No, the publisher sets the number of keys that will be distributed when a given offer is accepted. So if I'm a creator asking for a key to 𝙎𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬, I get 4, whether I like it or not.
Okay.
Instead of asking for 2 or 6. We are looking at options where people would be able to ask for more. The rub on that is it just gets a little slower for publishers to have to think about each request and authorize it, and then you're kind of back to the question of manual reviews. We want to enable a setting where a publisher could say, give up to X number of keys, and the creator would then request some number, under X. We don't have that now, but right now we just handle multiplayer through the, I guess, more brutish way of a defined number of keys going out each time.
Okay, so let's try and take this a little bit different. There are people sitting out there who are streaming, as I said, usually their own content, the things they bought themselves. If they're thinking about getting keys, at what point should they reach out to, for example, Woovit?
Well, as I say to publishers, the earlier the better. The larger the channel you have, the more keys you'll qualify for, though I think by enabling this automation and removing a lot of human review, or accelerating human review, because, for example, publishers can manually review their requests. The vast majority of the publishers do accept automated default system. But you can have 5 followers and ask for some codes, and there are some indie games out there, some of which look pretty decent and no one's heard about it, and maybe that's a way to develop a Let's Play channel over time. So we encourage people to get on as whenever they're professionally dedicated and want to build a channel and provide a service to their community.
So particularly people in the variety stream scene who will cover several games, several types of games. For them, it's get there as soon as possible.
I think so. It depends on your objective with the channel. There are other things that you'll get from having a presence on Woovit. One is a profile on our search engine. This is a little rusty, but it still works at search.woovit.com. The handle that you signed up with then becomes your default view within that URL, so you can have a searchable directory of all of the streams and videos you've made. This is important right now for things like Twitch, where Twitch removes the games that you've done in the past, but within, I think it's 14 days now. You guys probably know this even better than I do. They go away. It's nice to have a record. Hey, 𝙎𝙤𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬 I actually did play a 4X game on Twitch 6 months ago. We don't retain the video, but we retain the metadata that this video occurred. That's one reason. The second thing, whether you're doing a variety stream or you're a single game creator, we do have some offers right now, there aren't too many, that would apply across, that aren't games. We call them custom offers, and the most successful of which were codes for XSplit, the service to enable you to stream more efficiently. We are looking to also begin to, once we get a few more kinks out in what we call the beachhead market of video games, more consumer brands for people to get a chair, consumer electronics associated with making the stream, hats, food, whatever. So even if you're a single game streamer, you're going to do nothing but play Fortnite till the end of time, we hope to make a reason for you to also be on Woovit so you can receive those other offers.
Have you thought about events? Because one of the other services we do use have various events in Europe, admittedly, but it could be interesting if I get access keys to what do you have over in the US, PAX?
Yeah, events is definitely very compelling. We've spoken with one very large game convention that I won't name here, and I hope they will move their process of discovery there as well, because in a way it's the same thing. It's a digital good. In this case, it just happens to be an alphanumeric string that's going to get you a ticket instead of a game. So whether you're getting a game, code to XSplit, a chair, or a ticket to, as you said, PAX, although we've not been in touch with PAX, all this is the same. People are looking at the same data, and they're trying to make a decision. Do I want to invite this creator into my realm? I think one of our publishers that Triple Point works with just put up an event, but I should load up Woovit and make sure before I say it on your podcast. But we're definitely looking for events as well. It's something that helps the creators build their channel, and it makes it easier for events to find the right people who should be there. So we're definitely looking down that road. There's some things about events that are a little different because it is more time sensitive, of course. So we don't have a good calendaring function, which we think is necessary to really make that a separate category, for example. But we're definitely looking at that as well.
Yeah, it's just, again, thinking about all the funds we had in the early days, figuring out how to get contacts and all that. If anybody's sitting out there and thinking, I would love to get into this, whether it's as a streamer, reviewer, just YouTube creator, offline videos that you upload separately, getting to these events is immensely useful. Like, the contacts or the people you can meet at them, at the right events, I should say, can really move you forward. Almost nothing else can.
There's no question, both from the sense of making some connections and people get to know you a little bit better, but also I'd say like any other creative endeavor, I think seeing that there are other people doing what it is you want to do and that they're being successful is very inspirational. It removes what I think, is replete throughout the artistic world of imposter syndrome. Like, well, I'm never going to be lyric and I'm not going to have whatever, millions of people following me. And of course the answer is you can. You just have to trust in the process, continue to build up your channel, do it professionally. There are many tips and tricks that get learned at a TwitchCon about the best ways to optimize channels. And so by all means, creators should go. We want to make those tickets cheaper for them, but there'll be things like plane costs and hotel that are hard to avoid. It is very, very worthwhile if you're serious about the channels to go and do that.
Well, and I think a service like this actually would work pretty well for some of these events too, because I know one of the things that we've discovered as we apply for press passes to the events, and the response that we get a lot of times they look for a specific level of traffic either to the website or the YouTube channel or whatnot before they'll qualify you as press. So you kind of already have those metrics built in.
That's absolutely how a lot of firms do it, and that's unfortunate on, at one level, of course, it's very understandable. You want to have serious people. Serious people have a high correspondence with large channels, but they also can miss a lot. And while there are some firms that really know the video game industry pretty well, including Triple Point, but there are others such as a firm called 47 and Vendor Helper, and there are a number of specialist firms that really will take a good look. A lot of large PR firms do not have people when they're doing these reviews as familiar with the gaming industry, and they're not taking the requests as seriously as they should, and they're more easy to scam because they're not as familiar. So I think by authenticating the creators in Woovit, again, whether it's for a key or a T-shirt or a access to PAX, can make that process a lot easier. By seeing how they've actually acted as a professional in a very easy, glancing way, and not get absorbed just with channel size, though channel size is one important variable.
It certainly makes sense. The other thing I think too, though, is if you're only looking for content creators that have tens or hundreds of thousands or millions of viewers, these are also the content creators that are probably focused more on AAA and AA games, more so than indie games for the most part. And so it's almost like another place where indie games kind of get left behind unless they've somehow already managed to break in somehow.
Well, that's right. And the other thing is those creators of that size are besieged with requests. I mean, it's very hard to imagine how big their inboxes are, despite sometimes the difficulty of finding the inboxes. And so, it would be better for many events to have someone with a channel of 20,000 followers than just fruitlessly hope the guy with 2 million followers will want to come to your event. Events being not only specific to a time, but specific to a place. One thing we haven't done much with, but I anticipate doing in the future, will be your geographic location. So if you're doing, Gen Con in Indianapolis, and you want to see a list of all the people that have signed up, throughout the Midwest where it's an easy drive and they don't need to worry about a flight, that is something we will also be building in the future to automate and make the process much, much more efficient.
That's going to be interesting to watch because, okay, I should admit, BAMS is a little bit different than most other teams, but you would be covering geographically Germany, Belgium, England, various places in the US, South Africa, the Middle East. We got people all over the place.
Yeah, well, and Bamsters may be a little bit of an outlier in terms of how you guys are using it, but I will say that I think that a team account would be used in this way, where people would be saying multiple locations that they go to. If I live in Indianapolis, but I go to Los Angeles regularly, I may express interest in receiving invitations to things both in Indiana and Southern California. Again, we haven't exactly spec'd out everything about the product, but I actually think we'll be able to handle that use case for just that reason. Because, of course, people are mobile. Maybe you have really cheap flights to go to Austin, and you want to go, to events there. That should be pretty easy to designate. But it's still a geographic designation, and we don't have much of that right now, but on the roadmap.
Actually, team account sounds like it would be an interesting thing. I haven't even checked if you have that.
I think it's more the use case that you guys have right now, where multiple people are accessing through the Draconis or a Bamsters account.
Yeah, it's been one of those fun things because whenever we show up and say, oh yeah, we'd like a review key, we'd like stream keys, etc., or we'd like to work with you on the podcast, and people go, okay, wait, you're a team. How does that work? It's very much a market based around individuals. So it's been fun to look at.
Yeah, we'll work, and of course, for a publication, whether you're Bamsters or IGN, you need to have different people who cover different things, and so that gets to a little bit more, product differentiation than we are really ready to handle right now. So we've been very much centered around the individual experience, but one day we'll have something, more centered around teams as well.
Say good to hear. It's just, it is an outlier, so I can appreciate that it doesn't happen.
We're having fun, still centered around the individual experience, but as we discussed with Deep Rock Galactic, there are more things to be done, for multiplayer or team settings.
Well, I gotta say for myself, I haven't checked out the site. I enjoy the look of the site. It's a nice, clean look, easy to use. Filter things down. So I appreciate the way that you guys have put the site together so far. It looks cool.
Yeah, thanks. We want to make it easy. We grew at the end of the summer faster than we expected, and so we've got some more filtering work to do. But I appreciate that compliment, and we always want to make it easier to use. So feedback will be very welcome. I think one thing that I haven't expressed that does make things easier versus other services and other expectations is we are automatically crawling your sites after you've taken a key, so that people don't need to report the work that they've done. This is, again, a type of automation that should help creators, spend time on what they want to do, which is create videos, and not have to sort of report back, here's my stream, I did X, Y, and Z thing. And so that ease of use transcends beyond just the interface. We want to encompass as much of the whole experience as possible, to facilitate this transaction.
So does it do that through use of tagging the game in the video or hashtags, or how does that work?
That's right. You'll see on the offers that it's basically the game name, though a publisher has the option of putting in a hashtag instead. Game names work nicely because, of course, they're usually in the title, but also most of the streaming services capture the game automatically, so those get reported back. For example, on Twitch, you may have a 5-hour stream where you're playing 4 different games, so the game name is not in the title of your stream, but we'll still capture that because the Twitch API reports back, hey, 𝙎𝙤𝙬𝙤𝙬 is now streaming a Galaxy of Pen and Paper. You don't need to change your title or otherwise write into the publisher, hey, Woovit, hey, Galaxy of Pen and Paper, I did this video at the following time. We're capturing that automatically.
Oh, that's nice.
Okay, I'm just looking at the... I mean, it's... Richard, it's an absolute pleasure talking to you. We could probably go on for a while still, but unfortunately we have maximum amount of time allowances.
Well, it's been a pleasure speaking. I'm happy to answer any other questions, and would be delighted to come back sometime after we build out more functionality, especially the ones that are suitable for a team like Bamsters.
Well, I have one small thing, and it's something I've said to every single party who's made systems like yours. It would be interesting if the content creators could add a blurb about themselves, 100 words or 100 characters for that matter, tweet size, who they are, how they see themselves. It's one thing I wondered why isn't on any of these sites.
Well, that's a good question, and now that you say it, I can't think of another place that does have that. I mean, a lot of the expression that creators give is in their avatar selection, of course, and just in their name, but that'd be pretty easy to add. As part of we are going to revamp the section of the site that I mentioned, the search.woovit.com/𝙎𝙤𝙬𝙬𝙬, where we could have a part of self-expression there that you typically see in the descriptions or the about me's on YouTube or Twitch. So, I like that idea. We're going to put it on the roadmap.
It was just a weird thing. This is something when you come from different areas, I'm from production of all things. Automated manufacturing. So I probably see these things differently. It's just, it isn't on any of them. So
I'll give my probably the reason that we didn't emphasize that is that, to be honest, the publishers don't read much of the descriptions. They're looking at the actual product as their primary decision-making lens. But there's no reason that we can't do that to sort of help the creators use a channel that is a good expression of them to have their own audiences be able to come back and search through all their videos and what have you. So that definitely should go on our roadmap, and I appreciate the suggestion.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking about all the small ones out there. Like, why take a chance on this small one versus the other small outlet?
I think they do that when they see the videos and seeing a quick snippet of the actual content. But again, not to litigate the point too far, because we could use this, and it's a good idea, and I'll be honest, it was not immediately on the roadmap, although the search engine revamp is to create a more holistic picture of a channel, and that holistic picture should include a description.
I was just going to ask if there were any other upcoming features or anything that Richard would like to mention before we get to what Bam likes to call the penultimate question.
I'm looking forward to both penultimate and ultimate questions, and if this is the anti-penultimate one, I'll say, yeah, whitelists are coming. We have it on our staging server. It's working really well. We have some of the whitelist functionality shipped, but we've got to do things like the invite modal so that a publisher can invite someone into Woovit to get their codes. That all will be shipping next week. We've recently shipped manual review, which enables publishers to have a filter first and then send off the keys to make themselves feel more comfortable. I will say happily that in the use of manual review, we've not seen a single request denied. So we're hoping manual review becomes the gateway drug back to feeling comfortable with an automatic request system. And then the big search engine revamp, that will probably take a few months. That'll be far away, but look forward to adding the descriptions of the channels that the channels themselves can provide per G's recommendation. That will come soon too.
So not only is G good at wrangling us like a little cat herder, but apparently he's good at giving you guys a task too.
He's wrangling me. I sympathize with you very deeply now.
Well, now you're making me think, 'cause there's a certain number of games out there where people have come on the show here and talked about their game, where we've ended up having them put bacon into the game. I'm wondering if we can make bacon into on Woovit. That's a bit of a challenge.
Sorry, pigs of the world. Now bacon has to come into the product roadmap as well.
It's just been a weird thing. Like, I think there's 12, 15 games now out there where you can find everything from a bacon spaceship, bacon asteroids, bacon cellars, a bacon cart somewhere. It's
Well,
been
I'm not an outlier to say I also love bacon. I like it very crispy, but I don't see a immediate way to fit that into our roadmap. But perhaps when we do virtual goods, that will be the first one.
Drag, I think you have to hurry up and ask that, as Bam likes to call the penultimate question, because language is not Bam's strong side.
All right, so we'll just jump right into it then. I know the first part you kind of answered a little bit, but what kind of bacon do you like? How do you like it prepared? And what beverage do you prefer to pair with said bacon, be that beer, cider, or etc.?
Yeah, I'm a bacon in the morning guy, so it's coffee that goes with it. Canadian bacon is sometimes too much for me, so I like a standard straight American cut crispy bacon.
Well, and a lot of times with folks, especially if they mention like maple flavored bacon, I'll ask if they've ever tried it with peanut butter.
That would go well beyond my domain expertise, but I will say I generally will stay away from flavored bacon. I like it straight up.
A man of my heart.
Good.
Admittedly. Except, change the coffee into tea and I'm with you.
Well, tea with bacon, I'm not sure I can brook that. I need the coffee to give the counter punch to the bacon's fat, but tea in the afternoon, okay.
Yeah, it's just I can't stand coffee. I'm broken in that way. Sorry. Anyways, Richard, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on and talk about this project of yours, Woovit. And as I think Drac mentioned, we were on there, and we're about to release the first video based on keys from that site.
Fantastic. What key did you take that you will make a video on?
Phantom Signal, because I have a tendency towards these little games where you can decouple part of your mind and just play the game.
Cool. We will look forward to that, and hopefully our crawlers will instantly catch it. You'll see it in your delivered videos, and that will replenish your quota. So you can take some other keys that you'll qualify for, and look forward to more videos.
Oh yeah, I should point out, we have a backlog of keys already, so it's going to be slow picking them up, but, anybody out there should definitely go and check it out. I'm loving, just to wrap this up, I'm loving the way that you can get the keys immediately. It isn't, I would like a key, and manual review a month later, here it is. That there is that option, particularly with the small indie ones.
It's a huge problem, and of course, we do have a manual review option now for publishers, so sometimes it's not instant, though we have seen manual review requests get answered very quickly. The reason they get answered quickly is that the games are actually up there, and I think there are some other sites where they list every game that is coming out on Steam, and so they don't have those actual keys available. I know this is maybe a topic for a longer conversation, but that creates a very toxic ecosystem where requests are made for games that don't have the keys up. In the end, someone puts up the key 6 months later, sends it out, nobody does a video because they've lost interest. The request was 6 months ago, and now nobody trusts anybody. And so that was another inspiration for trying to have a more transparent and automated system.
Yeah, just as that's what drew me to you guys, and I've been loving. I've been seeing that with, as I said, we're trying out this Phantom Signal, something else, and just the way it responds is nice compared to some of the other ones. And yeah, you're right. I just got a key from somebody who requested half a year ago, so it is different.
Which is crazy.
Nice.
I mean, you're probably not going to do that video, right? And that isn't to begrudge it, or maybe you do, but it'll take another 3 to 6 months, and it will be less effective for them as well. It's just a crazy system, and we hope to have something, as I said, different. Will you do that video, the one that you requested X number of months ago?
I will, but I've had to ask somebody else to do it on our team.
You get the dynamic, and again, I appreciate all the compliments. We are trying to make it as automated as possible and make publishers feel comfortable with the automation. Again, it's their intellectual property, it's their livelihood. Whether you're an indie or you're EA, we need to take anti-fraud measures very seriously. We want to build up a greater and greater database of behavior so that we can understand who is likely to make a video as intended. And as we grow on both sides, I think that will get ever more efficient. But I appreciate the compliment and very much appreciate being on, you guys. If I got an anti-penultimate question and a penultimate question, is there an ultimate question?
No, that's the headache. Bam doesn't know the difference between penultimate and ultimate. So he keeps saying penultimate.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's an internal joke.
Then a further iteration you have on your own product roadmap. But well, guys, I really appreciate being on and appreciate all the compliments and seriously the advice in terms of self-description, and that is going on our roadmap in Pivotal, our tracking system for how we manage our workload in the program. And I really appreciate being on today. Thank you so much also for walking me through our technical difficulties, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever you guys want to come back on, just get in touch with us. Let us know. You can reach us through the Discord channel or email one of us directly. And I appreciate, too, you getting back to me and being willing to come on and talk about the site, because it's been enlightening and it's been interesting. So I'm definitely looking forward to clearing through a few more of the backlog that I have so I can make better use of the site myself.
Well, fantastic. Thanks again so much, guys. And I really appreciate being on today.
No, thank you. We enjoyed it. And just as a final statement, guys, it's been a different thing, but we've talked about all the developers, we talked about all the things that go into games. I figured this was a good one to kind of show some of the other things that go on in this relation between the content creators and developers and the people you view on, on Twitch, on Mixer, on YouTube. So I hope everybody out there listening have kind of learned a little bit about what happens on that other side of the fence.